hopefully everybody had a spring break. Did you guys have a good spring break? Anybody do anything fun or hopefully didn't get hurt? Yep. Okay, good. Want to share with us what you did, or we went on down to southern Utah and went. My dad has a side-by-side, so we went riding on that a little bit. So that was fun. We just chilled. All right. Good, good. Yeah, it's good to kind of get away for a little bit, right? For sure. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen. Today, what we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about criminal law. Okay. So we're just going to be doing like a broad kind of scenario in it. It's a lot more detailed. As you know, like any kind of law is, there's always something that's at play and stuff like that. So, okay, so let's start rolling. And if you haven't got on the Nearpod and you can, that would be fantastic because I love participation on there. Okay, so there's some different law concepts that we need to know. And maybe first, before I do this real quick, let's jump to just our class real quick. As you'll see, I always put our recordings up here, okay? And on the front page under the announcements, we have our content, okay? And I did go in and zero out, and there's still a lot of people that are missing a lot of stuff from Unit 2, okay? So we have like the Lesson 2 quiz. Yep, the Lesson 2 quiz, and then also the LAPD Hollywood Shootout report, okay? So make sure you get those done because it's worth a lot of points, and you want to make sure that you do good. At the end of today's assignment, we'll have a quiz on what we learned, Lesson 3 quiz, and then you'll have what we call the criminal law worksheet, which all you do is you just take what that is and you answer these questions. And these questions, I forgot to do it. I better do it real quick in a second. There's a little handout thing that I will put on there that you can go through like a PDF document. You can look for the answers there if you do not know them. Okay. So that would be the 2 assignments that are due for this week, and they're not due until this next Monday. All right. So let's get into criminal law now. So there's different law concepts. Okay. There is what we call common law, okay, which centers around traditions or customs, and we kind of talked about that, about why some laws are, some things are legal in one area and not in another because of culture. There's case law. That is basically when decisions have been made by judges, and you can go back and say, hey, they've ruled this way in the past, so they should rule way in the future. And they are also what's called a statute law, which is made by the legislatures, okay? So those are the 3 types of laws. Okay, then you have what's called acts of omission, okay? An act of omission signifies that an individual fails to do something that was required by law, okay? So here's some examples, like failure to report child abuse, okay? Requiring your children to attend school, okay? I don't know if you knew that, but that is actually a law. It's not sometimes always followed, but you're supposed to be in some type of school, okay? Failure to signal, like while you're driving, okay? Those would be acts of omission, something that you didn't do that you are supposed to do. Okay, and then we have what's called acts of commission. An act of commission means that an individual has carried out a physical act in which is in violation of the law. Now, could be something more severe like murder, assault, theft, but they actually did something, right? They did omission, you didn't do it. Commission, you did do it. Okay, so we're going to listen to this little video. If it's easier for you to play on your end, feel free to do it. But this guy just talks a little bit about what criminal law is and how it works. And then we'll discuss. All right. Okay, so that kind of explains a little bit about um, how something would happen, right? So something happened. Let's say your car got broken into. There's a 911 call. Um, things went out. Okay. Uh, he kind of went into a lot of detail there. So after watching the video, what kind of questions do you have? Do you have any questions? And I thought it was kind of interesting. One that he said uh, that probable cause, right? So I don't know if you've heard that in order for like a police officer to search your house or search your car or something like that, they need probable cause, which just means there's some suspicion that you did something wrong, right? That you made an act of commission. But in order to be convicted of that crime, it needs to be beyond a reasonable doubt. That means that they know you did it, right? For sure. And that's why a lot of people, as you kind of see, and people get upset with that, but you need to be convicted with beyond a reasonable doubt in order to meet that. Okay. All right. So, any other questions that you might have? We had like a huge discussion the last time we did this. Oh man, not many out there. Okay, well, if you do have questions, please just put it in the chat and we'll go from there. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more in regards to Utah. So, Utah law books preceded by Utah legislature in the 1953. Okay. It revised annually as the legislature meets and acts in new laws. Okay, statutory laws, which are the ones created by the legislature for the state of Utah. There's a numbering system where it has like a title, a chapter, and section, and this is basically how things should be ran. So general provisions. Okay. There's jurisdiction. Okay, so jurisdiction is the right or authority of a government entity or city, county, state to be able to conduct that law in behalf of the executive branch, right? In order to fulfill their thing. So, like Utah Highway Patrol would be all of Utah, right? They can write a ticket anywhere in Utah. If you are Weber County Sheriff's Office or something like that, or Utah County Sheriff's Office, you can only write it in Utah County or Weber County, wherever your jurisdiction is. If you're a city, you can only do it inside the city, okay? And that's who it falls to. Okay, another thing's called venue. Venue is the right of a country or a county or district to prosecute a criminal action, okay? Then they get to determine like the location of the trial, that kind of stuff. So for cities that are so small, they reach out to their counties in order to be able to do trials and stuff like that, rather than do it in the city if the city's not large enough. Okay, statute of limitations. You may have heard of this before, but you can only be tried for something that you did if it falls within a certain time frame. Okay. Some of them have no time frames away, which like a capital offense. We kind of talked about what capital offenses are. Capital offenses are, such as murder, arsonery, laundering, that kind of stuff. There's no time limit. So that's why they have those cold cases that you kind of see a little bit on TV, where they said, this 30 years ago, new evidence has popped up and they find who the murderer is, right? A felony, if you committed that, it's a 4-year period. A misdemeanor, a 2, and an infraction would only be 1 year. And information, okay? So prosecution begins when an information is filed, okay? And he talked about that on the video, right? So it's basically a legal document which you go to the court saying what the alleged violation is and the proof of its existence. Okay, principles of criminal responsibility, intent, okay? So they need to prove certain things. We kind of talked about beyond a reasonable doubt that they committed them. So we have they intentionally did it, they knowingly did it, they recklessly did it, they were negligent when they were doing it. So that means negligence means that they ought to be aware of it, but they kind of like let it go, right? And then also traffic laws do not require intent, just so you know. So I'm sorry, I didn't realize that I was speeding, right? That you're still gonna get ticketed, right? Or you can. Elements of a crime. Each crime is composed of elements, each of which must be proven in order to defend the defendant to be found guilty, okay? So elements of theft. And so this is written into like the code, or basically the legislative law there. So for example, like with theft, you have unauthorized control, okay? Property of another person, and the intent to deprive. So you have to prove all those three things in order to prove it to the courts and to jury. Classification of offenses, okay? We already kind of went over these before. Any type of felony that you commit, you would be going to prison, which is longer term. A misdemeanor is usually punishable by a jail. So jail is short term, okay? And it's up to 1 year. If you're anything over 1 year, then you're going to go to prison. Okay, a capital offense, we kind of talked about that. An example is like murder. So it could either lead to death or imprisonment. You have first-degree felony, which is up to five years to life. This would be murder, aggravated burglary, aggravated robbery, aggravated kidnapping, or rape. Second-degree felony is anywhere from 1 to 15 years. And it's kind of interesting. They put on there the time frame, the legislatively of how long they can do it for, right? So that could be good or bad, right? 1 to 15 years. So manslaughter. So if I were to accidentally hit somebody with my car and kill them, there was not any intent, that kind of stuff, but they could hit me for manslaughter and I'd serve 1 to 15 years. Kidnapping, burglary of a residence, forcible abuse, okay? Robbery, theft of an item over in excess of $5,000. Third-degree felony is 0 to 5 years in prison. A theft of value between $1,000 and $5,000. Arson with the intent to defraud an insurer, an aggravated assault. A Class A misdemeanor is up to 1 year in jail. Vehicle burglary, theft of items valued at $300 to $1,000, or an assault on a peace officer, which means a police officer, okay, or some type of law enforcement. Class B is up to 6 months in jail. This could be something like assault, criminal trespassing in a dwelling, theft of an item less than $300, telephone harassment, which I think is kind of fun, is interesting. I feel like I get harassed by robocalls all the time, and those crazy people that try to get things out of you. A Class C misdemeanor is up to 3 months in jail. Disorderly conduct is 1 after warnings to stop, okay? Criminal trespass, and then most traffic violations. Okay, so can you please tell me real quick, those that are out there, what is the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony? Severity, I like that. Yep. So severity from one to the other. You know, felony is a lot higher, and then as you can see, they have different degrees on them, right? There's another one. A felony, you're going to go to where? Are you going to go to prison, or are you going to go to jail? So a felony, you would go to prison or jail. What would that be? Felony equals prison. Yep. Misdemeanor is jail or fines. Okay. Hopefully you've never had to go through that. Perfect. Thank you for answering me. Okay. Anybody else? All right. We'll move on a little bit. Okay. So there's another thing called infractions. So these are usually like your tickets or warrant, stuff like that. So there's no jail sentence. Disorderly conduct where no warning has occurred. Okay, so as we're talking more about the act to do something, we have what's called attempt. It's the offender began to commit the crime but was unable to complete it. Okay. Need evidence that the defendant has engaged in conduct which constitute a substantial step towards the commission of the crime. Actions taken by a defendant must clearly indicate the intent was to commit an illegal act. Okay, here's something that you hear a lot as the word conspiracy. So it's an agreement with one or more other persons to commit a crime. One of those involves an agreement must then commit a covert act that would further the conspiracy. So if you get together and you are planning something with somebody, an illegal act, right? Someone goes and starts making those arrangements. I mean, talking about it is one thing, right? But going out and starting to do it is another. And then once that has happened, then conspiracy has happened, right? Okay, crimes against another person. This would be something like criminal homicide, kidnapping, rape, or assault. So crimes against property, things like arson, criminal mischief, burglary, vehicle burglary, criminal trespass, robbery, or theft. Okay, so you have other things which are like crimes against the government and public order. So you would have like interfering with arrest, obstruction of justice, which means that you're not allowing the law enforcement to do what they need to do, okay? False reporting of crime or false personal information. Interfering with arrest. So having the knowledge that a peace officer, so some type of law enforcement, is seeking to effect a lawful arrest and interferes with such arrest by the force or use of a weapon. Okay, and there's a lot that go on here. So let's go over these kind of fast because I'm probably kind of boring you a little bit, unless you really love this stuff like I do. The other one's obstruction of justice. Okay, you're basically hindering or preventing or delaying the discovery of like evidence or something like that. Okay. False reporting of a crime. So there's been many people that want to get other people in trouble, and if you falsely report a crime, that is another offense. False personal information. So you give somebody a false name, false date of birth, address, that kind of stuff, so you can get off. Okay. Crimes against public order and decency, like intoxication in public, lewdness, disorderly conduct, electronic communication harassment would all fall under that. Disorderly conduct, refusing to comply with the lawful order of police move from a public place. We're seeing a lot of this like as we're having like riots and stuff going on right now. Disorderly conduct seems to be something that is happening quite a bit. It's usually when it starts turning violent. There's a difference between protest and also actual peaceful protest and when mobs break out. Okay, electronic communication harassment. Harass people with alarms, offensive stuff, bad pictures being sent, that kind of stuff. We talked about intoxication. You hopefully know that. Just anything that you put into your body and then you're in the public and you're being disruptive and unreasonable. Definition of a firearm. Okay, so I'm probably should know a dangerous projectile. Restrictions on firearm protection. In Utah, They just passed a law. I don't know when it becomes in effect, if it already is, but that you can actually carry a firearm. You have to be over a certain age, but you can conceal a firearm without intent, without a permit anymore, without a concealed carry permit, which is kind of interesting. In a lot of states, it's state by states. Okay, good. You already heard it's already in effect. Interesting. I'm just wondering how that's going to work out for some things, because before they were able to regulate, basically who was supposed to be carrying. And yeah, I hope that doesn't happen to us, Victor. But it's interesting. But basically, if you're under 18, you're not supposed to be carrying any kind of dangerous weapon without permission from a guardian, parent or guardian. So like if you're hunting or something like that and you're carrying a gun, that's different than that. Carrying a loaded firearm in a vehicle. And that's why I think it's kind of important to at least have the concealed weapon class, because the concealed weapon class actually goes over these type of laws that you may not know. Correct. Yeah. So Utah accepts it, right? But not everybody accepts Utah's. Like there's like California, I don't think you can carry a concealed weapon at all. So just so you know. I mean, each state's different. But in Utah, it's pretty well freedom to almost carry a firearm if you wish to. Here's another one, like brandishing a gun. So basically, that's why I said I think it's really important. Somebody says you can't carry a pocket knife through Cali streets, let alone a gun. Yep, that's very true. If you did have a pocket knife or something like that, they would, and they found it on you, right? I mean, that's another thing that is, yeah, not good. Okay. Controlled substance. I think we all kind of know what that is. Schools are all drug-free zones, so no drugs should be admitted on school grounds. Okay, so possession of alcohol by minors. This is something you need to be at least 21. And when you turn 21, you cannot go and buy it for minors either. Okay, that is against the law. Okay, the next one is unlawful acts about a school. Loitering, so a person that's staying there, wandering, strolling, or trespassing on a school campus without any lawful business of being there is prohibited. And that leads us to the end of today. So let me recap. If anybody came in late, these are what we need to do. So if you go to content, you have two things. You have the lesson 3 quiz, which goes over what we did in class today. And then you also have the criminal law worksheet where you need to go and answer these questions. Let me see if this will refresh real quick. But I did just post in there. Yep, right here, the law. So if you click on this PDF right here, you can like download it or whatever, and you can do Control F. You can look and find those questions in the criminal law worksheet. Okay. All right, so that is it. I will stay after for any questions, but other than that, that is our lesson for today, and we'll see you next week. You're free to leave.